It was supposed to be a simple academic research mission, but when Dr. Elena Rodriguez went undercover at Charlie Kirk's event, she captured something on her hidden camera that would destroy her entire career. What if I told you a liberal professor spent 15 years fighting conservative extremism, only to discover the real extremist was staring back at her in the mirror? What if the woman who built her career exposing dangerous right-wing ideology found out she had never actually researched what conservatives really believed? And what if her plan to destroy Charlie Kirk's reputation ended up destroying her own worldview instead? This is how Dr. Elena Rodriguez learned that the most dangerous echo chambers aren't the ones your opponents live in, they're the ones you build for yourself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez pulled her baseball cap lower as she joined the crowd of 1,000 students at Arizona State University. For 15 years, she'd built her Berkeley career fighting conservative speakers, published papers, led protests, testified before Congress about the dangers of campus extremism. But today she wasn't Dr. Rodriguez, tenured professor. Today she was Sarah Wilson, fake psychology student with hidden recording equipment and a mission to destroy Charlie Kirk. The plan was elegantly simple: infiltrate his Prove Me Wrong event, record his extremist views when he thought no one was watching, then publish the evidence that would end his campus influence forever. She'd already drafted the academic paper, Inside the Alt-Right, an ethnographic study of campus radicalization. The hidden camera would capture everything. Elena had convinced herself this was legitimate research. She would document Kirk's manipulation techniques, expose his dog whistles, and protect future students from his dangerous ideology. She'd spent weeks perfecting her cover story, studying social media profiles of real ASU students, even practicing their slang. But what she witnessed first shattered every expectation. Kirk took his seat under the Prove Me Wrong tent. Elena expected an angry extremist rally with coded hate speech and manipulation tactics. Instead, the 1,000 students around her were respectfully engaging, genuinely listening, thoughtfully disagreeing. Liberal students held protest signs, conservatives wore MAGA hats, but everyone seemed civil. Elena told herself this was Kirk's strategy: appear reasonable while spreading extremism underneath. She would expose that facade. The first student approached the microphone. Jessica, working 3 jobs, skipping meals to afford school, asked how Kirk could defend the American dream when it felt dead for people like her. Elena recorded everything, waiting for Kirk's heartless bootstrap lecture that would perfectly illustrate conservative callousness. Then everything changed. Instead of political theater, Kirk's entire demeanor shifted. "Jessica, thank you for sharing something so personal. That takes real courage." His voice softened completely, no trace of performative politics. He spent 10 minutes connecting her with specific scholarship programs, financial aid resources, and personal follow-up support. No cameras focused on this interaction. No viral moment was created, just genuine human help. Elena watched, stunned. This wasn't the political theater she'd expected. It was authentic compassion, but the shocking revelations kept coming. Next came a veteran's son whose father couldn't get VA health care. Again, Kirk listened intently, provided specific advocate contacts, gave his personal information for follow-up. A single mother struggling with childcare costs got detailed resource lists. An immigrant student worried about his family's status received legal aid connections. Student after student with real problems got real help, genuine care, practical solutions. This wasn't the heartless conservative Elena had studied from Berkeley faculty lounges. This was someone who actually seemed to care about improving students' lives. But Elena convinced herself it was elaborate performance art. She waited for her moment to expose the real Charlie Kirk. What happened next changed everything. Finally, Kirk pointed to her. "You there, in the baseball cap?" Elena's heart raced as she approached the microphone. She'd prepared for weeks, crafting questions designed to expose Kirk's extremism and get him to reveal his true nature on camera. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she began, using her fake identity. "I wanted to ask about systemic racism. Don't conservative policies perpetuate inequality and harm communities of color?" Kirk smiled and leaned forward. "Sarah, that's really important. Can I ask you something first? Are you here because you genuinely want to understand different perspectives, or are you here to try to catch me saying something controversial?" Elena's blood froze. How could he possibly know? "Because," Kirk continued gently, "I can tell from your body language, your overly prepared question, and the way you're positioning that recording device that you came here with a specific agenda. And that's completely okay. But I'd rather have a real conversation than play gotcha politics." The moment of truth arrived. Elena stood completely exposed. All her preparation, her fake identity, her hidden agenda, Kirk had seen through everything in seconds. But instead of humiliating her or calling security, he was offering her a genuine conversation. "Look, Sarah," Kirk said with disarming sincerity. I used to think people who disagreed with me were evil or stupid, but you know what changed my mind? Actually talking to them, actually listening to their concerns, instead of assuming I knew what they believed. Elena stood frozen at the microphone. This wasn't the response she had prepared for. Can you tell me specifically which policies you think perpetuate racism? Because I'd genuinely like to understand your perspective. Maybe we agree on more problems than you think. We might just disagree on solutions. The devastating realization hit like a truck. Elena realized she had no specific policies to cite. She'd spent 15 years teaching about systemic racism, but had never actually engaged with conservative perspectives on the issue. She'd built her entire worldview on assumptions about what conservatives believed, rather than researching their actual positions. I think policies like voter ID laws, Elena stammered. Okay, Kirk said patiently. Can you help me understand how ensuring election integrity harms communities of color? I'm genuinely curious because I want everyone to vote safely and securely. Elena realized she was trapped. She'd made public accusations but couldn't explain the logical connection between the policies and the harm she claimed they caused. But the most shocking moment was yet to come. Sarah, Kirk said with sincere curiosity, can I ask you something? Have you ever actually read conservative scholarship on racial issues? Have you talked to black conservative intellectuals about their perspectives? Or have you only heard conservative positions filtered through progressive sources? The question hung in the air like a revelation. Elena realized she had done exactly what she accused conservatives of doing, living in an echo chamber, never engaging with opposing viewpoints, never questioning her own assumptions. I've read critiques of conservative positions, Elena said weakly, but have you read the actual positions themselves? Kirk pressed gently. Because when we only hear about our opponents' beliefs from people who already disagree with them, we usually get a distorted picture. The crowd watched her intellectual foundations crumble. Students began to understand what was happening. This wasn't a political debate, it was a masterclass in intellectual honesty. Kirk wasn't destroying Elena's arguments, he was exposing that she didn't actually know what she was arguing against. Sarah, Kirk continued, I bet if you research conservative approaches to helping minority communities, school choice, opportunity zones, criminal justice reform, you might find we want many of the same outcomes. We just have different ideas about how to achieve them. Elena felt 15 years of academic certainty dissolving. She had built her career fighting conservative ideas without ever understanding what those ideas actually were. The moment of surrender came suddenly. Elena started, then stopped. The weight of her deception, her assumptions, her years of intellectual dishonesty crashed down. I don't actually know what your specific positions are. I've been operating on second-hand information. The admission hung in the air like a confession. Elena had just acknowledged, in front of 1,000 students and recording devices, that she'd built her career fighting strawmen instead of engaging with real ideas. Kirk smiled warmly. Thank you for being honest. That takes real courage, and you know what? That's exactly where genuine learning begins, when we're willing to admit we might be wrong. The aftermath was swift and transformative. Videos of the exchange went viral within hours. Professor Discovery exploded across social media, but the narrative wasn't what Elena had planned. Instead of exposing Kirk as an extremist, she had exposed herself as someone who fought ideas without understanding them. Elena returned to Berkeley fundamentally changed. She began actually reading conservative scholarship, engaging with conservative students, questioning assumptions she'd held for decades. Her research gained new depth as she examined issues from multiple perspectives. Her colleagues were horrified by her conversion, but Elena had discovered something more valuable than academic approval: intellectual honesty. The transformation was complete. 6 months later, Elena published a groundbreaking paper, Beyond the Echo Chamber: How Intellectual Humility Transforms Academic Discourse. She acknowledged her previous bias and demonstrated how genuine engagement with opposing viewpoints had made her a better scholar and teacher. Charlie Kirk invited Elena to co-teach a course on viewpoint diversity at Berkeley. The collaboration between a liberal professor and conservative activist became a model for universities nationwide. That day at Arizona State proved something every academic needs to remember. The greatest enemy of learning isn't ignorance, it's the certainty that we already know everything we need to know. Because Charlie Kirk didn't win that day by having better arguments, he won by demonstrating that real intellectual strength comes from curiosity, humility, and the courage to engage with people as individuals rather than stereotypes. Elena discovered that when you approach people with assumptions, you learn nothing. But when you approach them with genuine questions, you might discover that the world is far more complex and beautiful than your prejudices allowed you to see. If this story reminds you that intellectual honesty matters more than ideological purity, that questions are more valuable than assumptions, then subscribe and share this with someone who needs to remember that the best education doesn't confirm what you already believe, it challenges you to think more clearly. What did you think of Elena's transformation? Let us know in the comments, and remember, the most important discoveries often begin when we're brave enough to admit we might be wrong.